Hello and welcome to VR Verdict, episode 63, our weekly podcast where we talk about everything VR. I'm PJ.
I'm Wookie.
And we would like to share VR with you. Joining us this episode is Robert Aldridge from Big Top Games Studio. Just released Medieval Designer on Oculus Quest, coming soon to Oculus App Lab. Talks about pouring countless hours and energy into this game and what he's looking to get out of it, and he's still updating it. If you listen real close, you may be able to get a key for the game. And then he shares some plans for his next game coming out soon. Maybe. So Wookie, this is Robert. Robert, this is Wookie.
Yo.
Hey, what's up?
Robert. So Robert is the, what did you say, CEO of Big Top Games Studio?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, in indie dev, you kind of wear a lot of hats, so it's marketing, programming, art. It's kind of everything. But yeah, I do everything pretty much.
And you've been working on the game Medieval Designer, which is out now on, is it just Oculus right now?
For right now it's just for the Quest. It's on itch.io and by extension SideQuest.
Nice.
And there's a demo as well as the actual game itself, which is $7.99. And the demo is obviously free.
Nice.
Hopefully it'll be on App Lab in the next couple of weeks. It's still in processing. It's been about 4 weeks, so we'll see.
Nice. That sounds about right. When we've talked to other devs about the App Lab.
Yeah, it's been a pretty slow process. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was originally like 4 weeks, but they've moved it out to like 6 to 8 weeks or something like that because they've had so many submissions. But that's a good thing though. That means VR is growing.
Yeah, there's all kinds of great games and like apps and experiences that just keep coming out. Like, when we started this podcast, I was like, can we do one a month? Can we do one a week? Because it was kind of, sparse back then.
Yeah, it's growing every day. And I really wish I had more time to experience all the new stuff that comes out. I mean, I could call it, work, but, kind of hard sometimes.
So with your studio, is there 3 of you currently working on things or?
There was originally 3 of us when the studio was first founded in, I think, 2017. But now it's just 2 of us.
Okay.
And it was actually just me that built Medieval Designer. And then after that game successfully got me funding for our next project, I was able to hire on one of the original dudes back onto the team. And that's going pretty well so far.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk about that towards the end if there's stuff to share, but
oh yeah, definitely. It's
nice.
Been really exciting so far.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about Medieval Designer and share what you've some of your stories from developing it, I guess.
Do you want like a top-down kind of overview of what the game is first and then like development, or okay. So like the whole game is really just I seen in a GDC talk one time that it's probably not the best to kind of advertise your games in this way, but I really don't have any other way I could probably say it. It's like The Sims, like decorate mode, if you've ever played The Sims, but like in VR, like first person. And it kind of started out, to be honest, as like a tech demo of like a new inventory system. So like a top-down view of the game, though, is it's really just you have a tutorial or you spawn into with like this little house, and you can throw stuff around, play with the physics, and then you can load into an entire town, which is called Robark, and there's I think 29 houses that you can decorate the inside of.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you how many houses. I wasn't gonna run around and count them all. The first time I hopped into this game, it really made me think of the very first time I played Morrowind, and
Oh, that's good. That's
yeah,
yeah.
and I was trying to I'd go steal a bunch of crap and come back to my house and try to decorate it, and it just you could only do so much. But that was the first thing I
Yeah.
thought of when I popped into there. I'm like, oh, this is neat. Like,
There's so much there game design in itself has become very bloated, I guess is the easiest way to say it. Like when developing for, a console or for, a modern PC, it's really easy to really get carried away with the possibilities of modern day tech, right? I
mhm.
mean, even something like the Xbox 360 could render, like 2 million triangles, on some of the games I played back in the day, and that was no problem. And the Quest hardware just can't do that at, large distances and stuff like that. So there's so much that we can learn from the older development styles, right? And that's kind of where I went into with the initial design of Medieval Designer. So, the initial thing was kind of a tech demo for a new inventory system, but then I wanted to see what I could really get out of the hardware by building like a world around you. And I was like, yeah, I could probably do something like the size of Morrowind, but how would I get away with that draw distance? And I was like, duh, like they figured it out 2 decades ago how to do that. You use a fog volume to really cover that stuff up. And I've had some complaints, in a review here and there about the fog distance and stuff, but I think it really hits a good barrier between performance and actual visibility. I think it's equivalent to like I'm not going to pretend to make up numbers here because I can't remember. So yeah, it's a pretty good little bit of distance out. I think it's about the same amount, if not a little bit more than Morrowind's originally was. And there's
Yeah,
like
you could see down the road and other buildings and stuff in town. I didn't think it was. That was great.
yeah, I mean there's some stuff that I did leave out that I probably should have added that would have made it feel a little less claustrophobic. Like the ability to sprint in the game is like just click a thumbstick and just run. Change your movement speed is something I really wanted to do, and I still might. Because while we moved on to the next title, I am still developing Medieval Designer, like updates here and there in my free time, and I got some pretty exciting stuff to talk about there later on, I
Nice.
guess. But yeah, sprinting would be probably a pretty cool addition there. Um, but yeah, just you can move through it. There's a lot of houses.
Yeah.
It's 29 in total, and then there's 74 or 75 interior spaces. So the game is broken up into, there's the big exterior world, which is just, the 29 houses in the city with its city walls. There is basements and like first floor, second floors, tower type things, all kinds of different areas to decorate. And it's all separated by load doors as well, which is kind of strange to do in VR, but I think I was able to do it pretty well so it's not as jarring as it could be.
Yeah, I don't think it's jarring at all.
I mean,
Honestly.
everything about the game is 100% based on performance. So like the draw distance, the segmentation of the houses, are like like I could do a thing where it was just like 6 houses in like an area, and they were all open, and you could decorate everything at one time and go in and out of them without going through a load door. But and you could like decorate the exterior even, but it wouldn't give the player nearly as much freedom in these individual spaces. And how would you really add weight to there being or make it make sense if there's like these random 6 houses just in the middle of nowhere? Like, do you put a wall around that? Do you put them in the forest? What do you do? I mean, even foliage has been quite a challenge on the Quest hardware, but I'm pretty happy with where we ended up on that.
Yeah, I like the dungeon aesthetic, and then I think I was running through a house that had like an airwalk between two buildings. It was really neat.
Yeah,
Like all the
yeah,
wood framing and stuff.
yeah. I think there's 2 houses in the town that have that, and they were interesting to get working technically simply because of I did crazy optimization on some of these assets. Like the initial starting point for those little walkways you're talking about, when they're merged down into one asset, which the project relies heavily on merging and a lot of custom poly work and stuff like that. But when just that one little piece that you're talking about is merged down, it's like 10,000 triangles. It's insane. But then after a lot of optimization work, it's like down to like 1,500 or something like that. It's pretty impressive stuff.
Oh. Did this, you kind of said, this came about working on an inventory system, but so this just started as like an actual like demo, like what can we do with inventory, and then you just kind of clicked to like I can make something out of this.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing kind of started like the project got its first legs, I think, in March of 2020, I think. Maybe. I was working on some other projects before that, and they all kind of fell to the side in order to make this come to life. So yeah, it was. I was playing a lot of different VR games at the time, and one of the biggest complaints I had myself was for like inventory management in VR games.
Mm-hmm.
Like my favorite genre of games is RPGs, and I talked about this probably a few months before in like a YouTube video. I was talking about how are we going to solve there's so many design challenges with VR, but how are we going to solve something like an inventory? Because if you've played something like Skyrim in VR, right? It's a pretty good port for what it is. It's clearly not built from the ground up for VR, and it's got its issues, but it's okay for what it is. But one of the biggest problems with it, in my opinion, was the inventory system. And I cannot. It even expands outside of just games though, because it also expands out to like even the Oculus Home environment or Steam VR or whatever. They use those absolutely stupid laser pointers, and I hate them with such a passion. I cannot stand those laser pointers. So the entire thing started out as, okay, how can I eliminate the laser pointer? How can I destroy the laser pointer? Which seems a little ridiculous, and you know what, it probably is. But yeah, I came up with a system that actually eliminates the laser pointer altogether. So I like it, And for people who haven't played the game, which is looking at my sales number, admittedly, most people.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's not doing great, but hey, I knew the market was going to be somewhat limited, but I don't know. Then again, I'm not great at marketing either. Like I have no idea how anyone markets anything successfully, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like it's insane. Like how some people like their indie games take off tremendously. But yeah, like anyway. So yeah, like for people who haven't played the game, like, you press controller here, so I can remember. You press the B button. I think it's the B button. I don't have the game open in front of me. You press the B button, and your menu flies out around you in like a circular kind of like a circular kind of menu system, and the items are split up into categories. So you have like kitchenware, furniture, bar stuff, wall hangings, rugs, whatever. And then those categories are divided up by like they're merged down into individual items. And then you just reach out and you grab one of those items, the categories, and the inventory expands back out into the actual items in that category. So like kitchenware, there's like 300 items or something like that. So you have like forks and plates and whatever else, and you just navigate through the menu using your right or left thumbstick up and down, or horizontally or vertically. So you can actually spin the entire menu around you, or if you want to, you can just turn around and look at the menu. And I'm pretty. I've received some interesting criticism of it, but I really think it's an interesting, somewhat revolutionary system because it allows the player to see everything they're interacting with, at a kind of smaller level before they try to mess with it. Like that's the problem with like the laser pointers. Usually you get like a flat screen, or you get like this item that's like rotating or something like that. But
Yeah.
with my inventory system, it's the item's just there. And well, this is another thing I'm thinking about doing for the future is adding the ability for the items to rotate. Because somebody wrote up an article very recently about how to be able to do that on the GPU without incurring significant penalties from rotating an object with its collision at runtime. That was an original plan, was to have everything rotating like in its place, but it spiked the GPU something horrible. So anyway, yeah. So like you can rotate the entire menu around you, and you can just reach out and grab something, and it expands to its proper size. So you'll have like an apple that's like, half its size or whatever, and you grab it and it just expands with a nice little sound effect to its proper size, or like a bookshelf or a chair or whatever. So
Yeah, I thought it was pretty intuitive. After the first couple things I tried to grab and pull out, I like it that you touch it and then it's in your hand. All the there is really no UI, but like the other items just kind of go away and makes that noise, like you said, and you just do what you want with that item. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, you just grab the item and it expands out to its proper size. There is some issues with like sometimes you'll like grab an item in a weird location, so it'll expand out and be like inside the player. But it's some stuff like that's okay because it's gamified. You know what I mean? I mean I think it's pretty intuitive for what it is. I'm pretty damn proud of that system.
Yeah, I pulled out a bookshelf, and obviously a bookshelf is pretty big. Holy shit!
You pull out a sword and like when it expands and does the little pop noise that you mentioned, does it like go inside you and kill you and then game over? that would be me like beta testing something like
that would be a that would be a fun little Easter egg, but no, it doesn't do that.
Speaking of items, how many are in the game currently? Isn't it like I think you stated over 2,000 or something like that?
It's either close to 2,000 or over 2,000. I've lost count during my testing. I mean, there's several different builds that are like the initial build that's like uploaded to App Lab right now, waiting verification. Like, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but like they don't let you change your build once you upload to App Lab. Yeah. Like once you submit verification, that's it. They don't let you touch it. So like I have this month-old build sitting on Oculus servers that I can't touch for the updates. Like there was a small update right when the game came out where like the trees were like at this weird floating bits that I fixed. But anyway, I don't remember what the question was. Sorry.
Just how many items you thought?
Yeah. So like, it's like close to 2,000. It might be a little, plus or minus 100 probably, because I wanted to initially have paintings in as like an object you could put up on the walls. Which maybe I should talk about the physics system as well. But the paintings, I wanted to have paintings you could put on the walls, but they ended up not making it in because I wanted them to kind of be Easter eggs as sort of like a callback to the previous work I'd done on an RPG that never got launched. And like I had all these screenshots I was gonna like make into like pixel art that would fit really well into paintings. And then there was also like rings and stuff from like there was like 1,000 different combinations of like rings and jewelry and all kinds of like armor, stuff like that didn't make it in because originally the game was going to have like a dungeon diving kind of thing to it. But that ended up getting cut entirely, as you're very well aware. Just for time and simplicity's sake.
Sure.
Yeah. Because all things considered, the graphics of the game, I'm pretty happy with how the graphics of the game turned out. Like it looks, in my opinion, really good for a Quest title.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I don't mean to change topics on you. Well, I'll let you finish, then I'll bring up what I was going to say.
I mean, I think it looks really good for a Quest title for what it is. Like, we went from like super uber macro, like 4K textures and super high model poly counts, stuff like that, and brought it all down to where it's still at a reasonable size memory footprint. Right? I mean, the game's like a gigabyte to download. It's nothing huge, and it runs really well. So.
I just, when you're saying that, I brought up the tutorial, and was that you narrating the tutorial?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're really good at it.
Well, thanks. I've heard that a couple of times actually, and I was surprised by that because I thought for sure that people were going to be like, "This is the worst story I've ever heard," or something like that. Artists are always their worst critic. I mean, like I sent a rough draft to my sister, and she was like, "This is the worst thing I've ever heard. You need to hire a professional voice actor." I was like, "Well, shit, man."
Off your Christmas list.
And your pancakes
like
suck.
Yeah. Something like that, yeah. So I mean, but yeah, I sent it to a few people, and you know the response I'll always get back is even the narration on the tutorial is really good. So I spent I spent quite a few hours working on that actually because I was like, you know, with bad takes, and I was like, all right, this doesn't sound good. This doesn't sound good. Yeah. So well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize, like with audio and video, like how long things take when you see the final product. You know,
Oh yeah.
like a 30-second video is probably like 5 to 10 hours of work.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. Like I did I do a little bit of YouTube here and there too. I mean, I haven't uploaded anything like 6 months, but um yeah, like when I first started doing it, like edits and stuff would take me like longer. Like I would do a video that'd be like, you know, 20 minutes or whatever, and then the editing would take like 7 hours. It's insane. So, I mean, I think I've gotten pretty good at like audio in particular. Like, you know, you just stuff like noise cancellation and like compression and stuff like that. It really goes a long way to make the audio sounds a lot better than, you know, just being straight clean. So
Every little bit helps.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's a dozen times worse working on something like a podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much all audio. Are you guys ever going to go to like a video format?
I think about it all the time, but we both work 40+ hour jobs, so it's just having time is, you know, not a thing ever.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean, hell, that's why I don't really do YouTube as much anymore. It's.
But
I mean,
I remember, you know, we were talking like how long things take, and you said you started up 2017, just starting out on basic things or whatever. But I remember you and I were chatting a little bit back in February, and you're like, "Hey, I'm almost done with the game. I want to, you know, come on the podcast and this and that." You're like, "I'm just waiting for this and this," and it's like, you know, I check in with you, and it's like, "Yeah, that's almost done." It's like, wow, you just don't realize how long things take.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Like the store art stuff, I thought was going to take so much. Like I thought it was going to be done so much quicker than it was. But it just and even like the music was one of the things I was talking to you about. I was like, you know, my composer Gregory Johnson. It's not entirely fair to say actually that I was the only one that worked on the project because that's not entirely true. I did all the programming, all the art, all the everything except for the music and the actual store art and like the loading screen. All those like little things were designed by other people. The music was done by my fantastic composer I've been working with for quite a few years now, actually, Gregory Johnson. And he's worked on a few Hollywood movies and stuff like that. Some I can't remember any of the titles actually. He worked on the new Milan, actually, the live action one. He has some stuff in there.
Well, cool.
And and my artist Joy Radford, she has a thing called Cozy Coy Creations, and she does all kinds of different art. She does all kinds of commissions, but she's all into video games and stuff. And at one point, we were going to work together doing a whole other art thing, but I ended up being like, I'll pay you to make some art for this because I don't have the time for it. Because at the time I was still chasing down a landscape bug. There was a bug at one point in the game where you would walk through the town and like houses would just start popping in and out for no reason. Like the fog would have no effect whatsoever, and like the actual the distance, like there's a set distance. I think it's 6,000, 7,000 somewhere in there, but that distance was just being completely ignored. And it turned out that the landscape itself was being used as an occluder to actually like block out houses and trees and whatever, but which would normally be fine. But I had several LOD values on the landscape, so the the level 2 LOD was being used for when the player was standing anywhere. So like even though the player looked like, and even the collision looked like the player was flat on the ground, the game would think that there was like a giant mountain in front of you. So it took a while to chase that down. For a while, I thought I was gonna have to scale down even further because I couldn't solve it, and it was causing like the game runs pretty solidly now, 72, and I can technically run it in some areas at 90, and even 120. The new experimental for the Oculus Quest too. But I think that for the time being, I'm either going to let that comes into more future stuff. But yeah, I thought I was gonna have to scale down because the game was running at like 72 most of the time, and then when that bug would occur, it would drop down to like 40 and would not go back up. It was a mess. So
that's got to be rough to experience in VR.
oh, it's terrible. Like I mean, luckily I've gotten so used to like low performance VR stuff. I mean, it happens when you're building games, you know, like
Yeah.
I mean, at one time, like all of the items had individual, like it's not per poly collision because you can't do that with physics, but they had very detailed, complex collision models. So like, you know, like a pot would have like 100 collision volumes on it, and it was actually causing significant performance when they would spawn in on like the menu. Because how the menu system works is it actually spawns everything at one time. You know, like I want to do like a loading system, but that's kind of a sneak peek of something to talk about for the future. But yeah, it caused horrible problems. But yeah, and then getting that down.
I was going to ask you about that. Like, when you say you can like pick the item right out of the inventory, do you load it all right there?
Yeah, technically, when you load the inventory, everything is loaded at one time, more or less. So, I mean, it's not loading 2,000 items at a time, obviously. I don't think the I/O overhead on the Quest could handle that at all. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty certain that's the case. Seeing as you know, I have like a test warehouse that's not accessible in the game, but like every item is in there, and it chugs horribly when it's in there. But yeah, when you press the menu button, the first thing you're loading is the set of categories, and there's only 2 pages of categories right now, if you want to even call it pages, which is like the first level and the second level of the inventory. And once you grab one of those, it actually unloads all of those and then reloads all the items itself, and then it buffers them into memory, but doesn't actually do any rendering unless the player actually is on the proper page. So it's relatively complex, but it's not as complex as I wanted it to be in the end. Because if it was as complex as I would want it to be, you would actually be able to see 3 or 4 levels of the inventory at one time, and they would like fade in and out. But the Quest hardware just couldn't handle it. So
yeah, that makes sense. Because like, I'm just glad somebody's working on new inventory systems in any aspect. Because we've all seen them to death, and they're horrible. Like playing Witcher 3, you get so many crafting items if you've played that.
Yeah.
If anybody's played that, you like open up your inventory, even on Xbox One. It's like, okay, now it's ready. You know, it has no paging system at all.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's also like when you see that in games nowadays, like I see that and it's like I don't even want to look at. I don't care. I won't craft in this game because it's just too much. I love what they're trying to do, but it's got to be looking through your inventory shouldn't be 3/4 of the game.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot. I mean it looks very spreadsheety at some points.
It's the focus of more and more games too, because like I said, Witcher came out, and Ubisoft, pretty much all their games have some components of Witcher 3 that they just borrowed, and it's all every game you got to run over some plants and do some crafting, and it's just menu upon menu of inventory. And if it's not intuitive, you either have to have it all in one spot, which takes forever to load, or if you don't have an intuitive paging system, you can't find some stuff. And like every game's got to have all the survival aspects now because somebody made a survival game and it got popular, and now everything's got to have food. And it's like, oh my god, like like Peach said, it's neat that they're doing stuff, but you got to work on the inventory problem now, people.
Yeah, there's quite a few things that have been played out pretty hard nowadays in games. Everything doesn't need to be an RPG, an open world RPG. Everything doesn't need to be a battle royale game. Come on.
Yep, exactly. No, everything's it's like, where's the ingenuity? I talk about this stuff with my girlfriend all the time. They're like, Nintendo seems to have it right, but no, they keep making the same games too. All this stuff. But like, it comes down to even like looting stuff in games. I know I'm saying the word like a lot. Sorry, PJ. Going around looting corpses or boxes. Sometimes games like just have it right, and sometimes it's just too much, and then that plays into the inventory aspect. It's like, just leave it out of my game, leave it out of my inventory. I don't care.
Yeah, you mentioned Skyrim or Morrowind even, and many hours in VR spent for PJ in Skyrim VR. And the first mod, just out of a habit, is take the weight out of the equation, because I hate not being over encumbered and not moving all of a sudden. But then you realize when you take that out, then you go to look through the inventory and it's so much.
You have so much stuff. Yeah. I do feel like a weight-based inventory is still preferable over like a slot-based inventory of like old RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
if they did that and you just couldn't pick up anything, that would be fine. But when you can't move, it's like, that's just like almost game breaking to me. It's like, oh,
that's an interesting idea. I don't think anyone's done that yet either, where like if your inventory is full. I mean, no, I guess because some slot-based inventories do that. It's sort of similar, but.
And then there's mods for games that are like black and white lists for things you pick up automatically or just skip.
Yeah.
But then you have to keep up the list, and it's like, there's gotta be a better way.
Why have the list?
My brain's always thinking about this stuff too. I've got like 50 different inventory ideas in my head, and I'm like,
yeah. I mean, our next game, I'm pretty happy with how it's coming along, and like we actually have an inventory system built basically upon this one here, for Medieval Designer, like used for like barrels and NPCs and stuff, and it's like the next game is a full-on RPG, and I'm pretty happy with how it's turning out. Like, think about, like, you guys have played the game. Think about how when you press the menu and it just flies out around you. We want to do something very similar in the next game. So like, you walk up to like a barrel or something, grab it, and it stuff flies out like that. It
nice.
Just it's a good
hide in it. Hide in it. Throw it.
It's a pretty good implementation for what it is. I'm gonna take this idea and run with it.
So do you get to flag like one of the houses in Medieval Designer, and that transfers into the next game, and that's your house? Is that what you're playing?
Because you don't want to redecorate.
That would be awesome, but I don't know about that. That was another thing. I had another feedback, I guess you want to call it, because it wasn't really a review. It was that we should be able to, visit other people's towns and decorate their towns, and you should be able to share town designs and decorate the exteriors. And everyone is an armchair game dev.
Yep.
Which in some cases is fine, and it's cool, but other times it's like, okay, you have no idea why this, and this would not work at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of annoying to go on things and listen to regular people talk about the names of game engines, like the Frostbite engine is too old to push this sort of Star Wars technology, and it's like,
none of that.
Do you know?
Yeah, none of that means anything. Like, that's the same argument people have when they talk about like Bethesda and their engine. Like, they've been using the same engine since Morrowind, which is technically true. Technically, it is. It's still based on Gamebryo, but it's been upgraded heavily. Like the physics, the lighting, everything has been changed in that engine. It's not like a drop. You take out one thing and you drop in another. It doesn't work that way. It's a collection of software.
Yep. Even when Ubisoft made they were touting when they came out with their Division game, that first one, Snowdrop, and they had all these cool videos like you're shooting guns, like consistent bullets at like a cop car's windshield, and it was like fragmenting, breaking realistically. I'm like, that's freaking awesome. Didn't see any evidence of that in the game at all. Like,
yeah, I feel like it's a big thing in just game dev in general. I can't speak for all game developers, obviously, but I feel like a lot of us suffer from like a Peter Molyneux kind of situation, where like we have such grandiose ideas, but then we just, we're like, oh, we're gonna do this, and you're gonna be able to plant an acorn, it's gonna grow into a tree, classic stuff. But then we get into developing the stuff, and reality kind of hits you in the head, like, stop it, you can't go that far.
Yeah.
When they add those features to the engine or they work on that stuff, it's probably good that they're using that to build horsepower here and there, and you just don't know if that'll even make it into the end cut of a game. but sometimes they tout those features of their engines, like kind of like rich people buying bigger yachts to compete with other rich people. This is just other game engine, like Epic Games and stuff like that. Like, we got this engine in Unreal 4. It's like,
yeah, I mean, like a lot of the big headlining features on so many engines, that's all they are. They're just big. They're like clickbaity titles, I guess. Like when DLSS was added to Unreal Engine, which I don't know if you get. I work in Unreal Engine. When DLSS was added to Unreal Engine, so many people were like losing their minds about it on different forums and stuff. But in all reality, how many people are actually going to be developing for DLSS or ray tracing, if you want to call it that? Like,
okay, I was gonna say I don't recognize DLSS, and I know some term. So
DLSS that's deep learning super sampling. It's NVIDIA's way of doing. I'm using the wrong terminology here. I was thinking about something else. DLSS is used for DLSS is used for upscaling. Sorry, ray tracing is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
When DLSS was added, though, like, how many people are actually going to use that? Like, it's a really cool technology, and it's kind of a drop-in thing. But, until more people actually have the RTX graphics cards that you can't get right now, it's not really a big thing. And like ray tracing is like the other thing. Like, some of it looks really good, but like, especially from my point of view, I will never, in probably the next 5 years, I will never get to do something with ray tracing. Right. Because what hardware is going to support it in my neck of game development? It's not a thing.
It's just kind of funny because they keep pushing stuff like that, but nobody's making the games that are really making me want to get. Because I haven't got the Series X yet. PJ did. I spent mine on. I had a budget for it, but I spent it all on toys. Honestly, the entire thing, and plastic toys, which I keep kicking myself. But whatever. They keep making these things that like should tout these games and get you to buy, but it's all graphics. But who's coming out with a game that has like the story we want to play? Like, I'm talking about AAA stuff.
Yeah,
they just released Mass Effect, which is a really good game story, genre defining or something like that. But it's how old now? Like, come out with a new game. Like, why do I need all this hardware when I'm supposed to be playing games from 2007?
Yeah, like I don't really know. I think part of it could just be from just a lack of knowledge on how to actually integrate it into some games, which you would think large studios could do it easily, but I'm not so sure. I mean, and also it's like a work versus return kind of thing as well.
Yep.
So many people, like, if you took a random person who isn't like a hardcore gamer, and you showed them a game that has screen space reflections versus real-time ray tracing reflections, they probably wouldn't know the difference from a still image. Because, I mean, as game developers, we've been working for decades and making these different technologies to fake stuff like real-time global illumination and real-time reflections, and so back to the main point. I mean, so many of those big engine things that people talk about, they're just buzzword kind of headlines. I'll tell you the thing I was most excited about in a game engine release that you'll probably not care at all about. The most exciting thing that I've seen in the last, let's just say 2 years, I think, was the integration of automatic instancing in Unreal Engine 4. I want to say it was 4.22. It might have been 4.23. Doesn't matter.
Matters to you.
Normal people don't even know what Unreal Engine version we're on right now anyway. Hell, some developers might not. But yeah, that was the most exciting thing to me, and it's a stupid little thing that was hidden deep in the code that, unless you actually look through the changelog, no one cared about. But it was a game changer for so many developers that probably didn't even realize it, because you could have 1,000 of the same mesh in a scene, right? Like 1,000 of the same wall. Think about my game, for instance, how a lot of it is very clearly reused because it has to be. But you could, before that was implemented, you had to manually go in and instance these things, which instancing is basically making the GPU draw it at one time instead of multiple times. There, of course, saving GPU power. So they added auto instancing, which at the engine level, it automatically instances everything that is being used multiple times. So instead of going through and manually doing that, the engine does it for you automatically.
That's fantastic.
It's amazing, and it didn't get nearly enough coverage as it should have. Like, granted, like for anything, even anything that's like super optimized, like my stuff, all of it's like heavily manually optimized. I mean, shit, I spent 6 months optimizing try counts to give you a view of my world there. So yeah, but
you mean they don't poll game devs and ask what you want when they build a new engine?
I mean, there's a roadmap. I don't know. I mean, then there's you can submit requests and stuff, but like one thing that I really want that I cannot believe is still not a thing in the engine is like when writing blueprint code. Which do you guys know what blueprint code is?
I don't. Wookie might.
I do not. I might, maybe not by that term.
Yeah, well, Unreal Engine is C++, right? But then they also have this system called blueprint scripting, which is you like connect blocks together to form code, right?
So it's codeless. You're just kind of dragging the lines together.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
I love that about Unreal. That looks really neat.
Yeah, it's an extremely powerful way of building games. Like, you can write everything in C++, sure, but it's so much faster for a lot of people to just prototype things in blueprints and then move it over to C++, or you can actually nativize it now in the engine where it'll take out most of the overhead of running blueprints and just basically convert it to native C++ code. It isn't nearly as good, but not the point. Anyway, so in like C++, you could just write print whatever, and like, that's how you get like a print string for like, item is at location X, Y, and Z or whatever, right?
Yep.
You can do the same thing in blueprints with just a block called print string. And you can also, you drag off a node and then you right click and you get like a selection box and you can write print, right? But then I hate the fact that I can't do like an open parenthesis or something and write in the actual comment that I want there, right? Like player has fired weapon, whatever, something like that. Close parenthesis, press enter, and then it's just there, and I don't have to mess with the code block anymore. But it's not like that. You have to do print, and then it's there, and then you have to click on the code block and then type in what you want. And it's just such a frustrating small thing that I am over. It's something very dumb.
Yeah.
From my point of view, but I'm a huge nerd when it comes to tech stuff. I mean, if I wasn't making games, I would probably just be consulting for teaching other people how to make games.
Yeah.
So
that sounds like it'd be something not too tough to add from my perspective.
It's all how they surface stuff. So
I could probably. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you good.
I could probably like submit a request for that, but I haven't because it's a pain in the ass, and I figure someone else would have done it by now. That's probably the laziest thing ever. But like, why hasn't anyone else thought of this? I don't know. Then again, why has no one else thought of my inventory system? But here we are.
There's a big problem when the game engines do that stuff, and they make all those things available. It almost makes you a little lazy. Because it's just, something's already there and they don't have it. Because I remember I was working with Unity a long time ago and I had a cool idea for like some certain spaceship game that I wanted to make. And you could make cloud system generators inside of an invisible box, basically. Mm-hmm. But you couldn't, there was like one attribute of the box and the cloud particle system you couldn't surface into a script, so you couldn't control it dynamically. Ruined the whole game idea. Because they didn't surface one parameter, which is like length or width. There's like size, maybe.
Yeah.
Of that emitter box, which I was like, damn it. It's really frustrating when they leave one thing out. And I looked and there was like, 1,000 people like saying, why can't you do this with that? I'm like, they've already asked them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a ton of things they're working on behind the scenes anyway,
I'm sure.
I mean, as much as I dislike Fortnite, just because of its, I hate the battle royale genre in its whole. I think it ruined first person shooters. I really do. Like, so much. I like.
Give me back my Titanfall. I don't care about Apex Legends. Give me back the Titanfall.
Give me about anything. Battlefield, Call of Duty, Halo, whatever. Anything other than battle royale games, Even though, Call of Duty has a battle royale. I mean, like Population 1, I'm sure there's fantastic developers over there, but the last thing we needed on the Quest was a battle royale. And I wanted an actual real story-driven shooter on the Quest, which we really don't have. I mean, I guess what was that other game that just came out? Not Contractors. That one came out before. Is Zero Caliber. That one just came out, and I played through just the tutorial of that so far, and it's really good. But we'll see how that holds up.
I haven't played Zero Caliber on the Quest yet, but I love the PC version. So it's just it's amazing co-op game with an actual story that's just fun to play.
I mean, my goal for the longest time has been trying to find a first person shooter. I want Halo on VR so bad. It's like my wife and we play Halo together. Nice. And it's great, but there's nothing like that on the Quest. Yeah. Ironically enough, I tried for like years to get her into gaming, and then as soon as the Quest 1 came out, and I bought one and I was showing it to her, she was like, "This is mine now. Go get your own."
That's awesome.
I was like, love it. Fine, that's great. And then it spiraled into let's play Halo, and then let's play Elder Scrolls Online or something, which I also don't like, but that's a whole different thing.
So we were so excited about that, and tutorial. I'm like, I love the blocking, like just sword and shield combat from like Skyrim. And I used to play like Terra was an old MMO. It was kind of like Warcraft, but there was action combat, not tab targeting. And the blocking in that, I was really good at like controlling fights. I had a whole guild that they like switched out all of their shield blockers because I was so good. Like it was like we don't need anybody else. There's Wookiee, and I was like, hey, I'm a champ. And then you get into Skyrim and stuff like that. And like, oh, you can block, and it's so great. And you get Elder Scrolls Online, and it's completely 3 steps backwards just for that. And I was like, I can't play this.
The thing that what kills me about that game altogether is just that, like, I don't understand. To be honest, I've never understood MMOs like in general. Like even like back in the day when I like tried to play like World of Warcraft and stuff. Like I have a friend John who plays World of Warcraft religiously. Like it's unhealthy.
I'm a thrice recovering addict myself.
Especially something like the Elder Scrolls, it didn't make sense to me to port it into an online game because like you're supposed to be this epic hero, right? Like that's the entire synopsis of like an Elder Scrolls game. And you go into like a dungeon, and then there are like 7 other people there. Like the whole thing always just rubbed me wrong. I hate it. I don't want to see other people, which is why there's no multiplayer in my game.
I love a single player game. Like I've actually fallen back into love with them, but Wookiee's my brother, and he moved away like 20 some years ago. So we hang out online. So it just the co-op thing just makes things like, why can't Assassin's Creed have a co-op? Like why? What the hell?
Yeah,
there's plenty of room.
Dude, Fallout 76 would have been great if it was just Fallout 4 co-op.
Yeah.
But instead, they made that dumpster fire of a game.
Yeah.
Bethesda's fallen so far from so many graces.
I don't think it's available on the Quest, but it's on PC VR, and it's the closest I've come to Halo in VR. Is I just lost the freaking title. Starts with an E. God damn it. We'll come back to it because it'll pop into my head. I know Wookie and I played it, but Evasion.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard of that one.
It's a 4-player co-op, and it feels a lot like Halo. It has a decent story, but I don't think it's on the Quest yet.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
All right, I'll have to check that out. I mean, I really hope at some point that we will get an actual Halo game in VR. I mean, because I feel like it would work so perfectly in VR because, I mean, in VR, like, you're kind of superhuman anyway, you can do whatever. And I think that would fit really well with having something like that in VR.
Can you imagine driving a Warthog while your friend's on the gun in VR?
I would barf and keep playing.
Sounds like the best way to puke, yeah.
Yeah, but I would still keep playing, like...
Yeah.
I haven't had any problems with VR yet, but if I have a headache, I'll get sick. Like if I had a headache before I start VR, because we have funny old things about like when we used to play GoldenEye back in the day, and like I would throw up. My left eye would get bloodshot. I would go in the bathroom, throw up, rinse my mouth out, sit back down, and we just keep playing. But I would do that if Halo in VR was there. I would drive or be the gunner, either one. I can't hit anything on in a vehicle gunner position for some reason. But man, that would be fun.
Yeah, it'd be great. I don't know. I'm like, there's so many games I want to make, but there's never enough time.
Yeah.
I mean, before I got with my business partner on this new game we're working on, like we thought about several different projects to work on before we finally landed on what we're working on, and one of them was making a shooter, but I was worried I would end up making, by accident, I would end up making another fucking wave shooter for the Quest. And there's so many of those.
Yeah.
Everything's it's awful. I mean, like Robo Recall is fantastic, but it's a wave shooter. Contractors is fine, but it's a wave shooter pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, Pavlov is fine, but it's kind of also a wave shooter, I mean, Walking Dead Sinners and Saints, the game with the closest version of something that is similar to my inventory, interestingly enough, is also basically a wave shooter, but with just, crowbars or whatever, That game actually has a very interesting inventory system. I like it a lot. From like sure, it's like a backpack or whatever, and like the entire system doesn't really make a lot of sense because like there's like holes and you plug things into the holes, like something weird, I don't know, but it's cool. You can actually see the 3D representation of the item.
Do you want to talk about your newer thing at all, or did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about that, or I can talk more about Medieval Designer, talk about some more of the design elements of it, whatever.
Fine.
I could talk about the future ideas for Medieval Designer for now, and if we have time, I'll go into the other stuff. So, like, one of the things I obviously want to add is, sprinting, because like it'll work. Like, it's literally just a toggle that I can add. I could add it right now while we're on this call, even. It's super simple, but I just haven't added it in for whatever reason. I'm working on other stuff. One of the biggest things I'm excited to be releasing in the next month or so, most likely, but timelines and game dev and Peter Molyneux, all that. It's working is the important part. Is building your own house, which is super exciting. Like, so we're gonna go from just the Sims decorate mode to the Sims decorate and the Sims build mode.
Nice.
Yeah. So like right now it's functional. I have it in a test build. Like it's the same thing. You bring your menu system, except for now it's like walls and roof pieces and doorways and stuff like that, and floor pieces, and you could just like build any kind of shape of a house you want. The only issue is like I'm not sure how I'm going to deal with. The optimization is going to be strange, to say the least. Like I might have to like downgrade the visual representation or the actual. I'm gonna have to do some interesting stuff to make it run well, because the entire reason why the game is like 74, 75 interior spaces with load doors is because when you load into one of those cells, or one of those levels, I should say. Thanks, Bethesda, for ruining me with the word cells. when you load into, I come from a background of modding those games very early on. Nice. When you load into one of those levels, the entire game, like, and I don't know if you guys notice, like the lighting in that game is different. The lighting in that game is very different than any other game I've seen on any game. And part of that, by the way, is thanks to Oliver JT on Twitter. I don't know if you guys follow him or not. Synthesis Universe.
No.
Yeah, he's a French developer, and he's like an OG, man. He's been around since like PlayStation 1, and he showed me some pretty crazy techniques for like faking lighting. And like if you go back and look at the original trailer for the game that I launched versus what you actually get when you play the game, the lighting is entirely different. And I just haven't updated the trailer yet, and I need to, but I'll get to it. But yeah, the lighting is so much better because we're using what is essentially faked shadows. So like the player hands have depth now and stuff, and there's depth on everything in the world, and there's not a single light emitting object in the game world. So like there is no actual sun, there is no light emitters of any kind. It's using completely unlit, but then faking lighting effects using some stuff that he taught me. Awesome developer.
Nice.
Got to shout him out there.
What was his name?
Oliver JT.
Gotcha.
He's on Twitter. I think. Let me make sure I'm getting that right. Yeah, Synthesis Universe. Oliver JT. I think he's in the credits of the game. I think he just wanted to be called just Oliver JT. So I would never really know how to properly.
Well, for anyone listening, anything you share, I'll have links in the show notes that we can just click on and check it out.
Yeah, sure. Yes, Synthesis Universe. He's working on his own VR game. He's a fantastic developer. Some of the stuff he's shown me has been amazing, and the current graphical fidelity of like lighting in the game would not be the same without him. Because there are no lighting. There's nothing light emitting in the game at all. Like in a normal game, you'd have like what most developers are doing right now. It seems, from my perspective, is they are using a skylight and then, or several scene lights, and then they're baking the lighting down. Or if they're not doing that, they're actually baking their light into their actual textures, so it looks like there's lighting where there's not, which is, in my opinion, way too time consuming. So what we did is this fake lighting stuff that Oliver showed me, and it works out really well, in my opinion. Like, I don't remember where I was going with this. I seem to ramble a lot. Yeah. Oh yeah. I was talking about when you load into a cell. Like when you load into a level, I get so off topic about like different things because
I do too.
I have so many rabbit holes I go down when it's part of being indie dev. Like you have to learn so much stuff about game development, optimization, and everything else. So when you load into one of those levels in my game, like the only thing you're seeing is like at max you have like 5 to maybe 15 at the most draw calls, which are like which I don't know if you guys know, that's the amount of times the actual engine is rendering frames to the GPU on the Quest 2 or the Quest. So and you want that number to be below, I think 75 on the Quest 1, and I think it's like 200 on the Quest 2. But because of my insane optimization, I'm able to get like 300 to 500 out of the Quest, which is pretty impressive if I say so myself. Wow. And it runs well. So anyway, when you load into one of those, you get like 5 to 15 draw calls, and all of that is because everything is either merged down, like the materials are merged down, the actual meshes are merged down into one single object. But if we do if you do the build your own house thing, you're going to have a bunch of draw calls, right?
Yep.
And like the auto instancing is going to help a lot, but you might run into a situation where like in one of the pre-built houses, you can lay down, 250 items or whatever, right? Which, by the way, I don't have any actual analytics on how many items you can put into the game before it crashes, because I've personally added in thousands of items into these games. Like I built an entire an entire miniature version of the city using like little blocks, like little stones, to see if I could overload the game, and it wouldn't crash. I have no idea how it's a mystery, but it's running, so I'll leave it how it is.
So the first thing you do to test like Skyrim mods, you just spawn 1,000 cheese wheels and see if you crash.
Yeah. What's funny is one of the earlier like tests of the inventory system is like I was testing with like a plate, just like a normal dinner plate. Mm-hmm. And I had this bug where like, so for some reason I grabbed a plate and it like exploded out with like 100 plates or like 1,000 plates, and they just covered the entire room. And I'm like, this is some Skyrim shit. So
gotta leave in those cheat codes.
Yeah, something like that.
I was cheating at plate poker.
That sounds awesome, like building the house and
so like the entire plan is like you'll be able to like load into a level and it'll be completely empty with just like an empty skybox, and you'll be able to just put in your walls and your floor and your roof or whatever, and then you'll be able to decorate that house however you want, I mean, because the actual building blocks of what those houses are relatively simple, like there's only like I think 6 or 7 individual like pieces, maybe 10 for like what make up the walls of the houses and stuff. But yeah, so I want to get that working, which, that's the biggest feature I want to get done is just house building, because that adds a whole nother level of replayability that doesn't exist otherwise. Because, someone like goes through and they decorate all their houses, maybe I don't know, they might get bored. I personally have a lot of fun. Like, for me, the most fun thing in my game, to be completely honest, is not even decorating the houses. Like, I love that aspect of it. And that was like one of the big things when I set out to make the game, was like, I love doing level design and like environment art and like set dressing, I guess you might call it, in like in-game engines. And I wanted to bring that into VR and have it accessible to a lot of people. And I thought that the medieval designer, I still think it's like the best version of that. Like if you want to decorate a house in VR, it's like the best way to do it. So the house building, though, it adds a whole other level of replayability, because you can make whatever house you want and build whatever you want, and you can mess with whatever you want. But my personal favorite thing to actually do in the game is not even that. It's actually just playing with the physics. Because physics are fun. So like, I didn't even mention this before, but like, it goes through in the tutorial, but for people who haven't played, like, you can grab objects, and the tutorial paints it as just like, oh, you can put like a painting on the wall, or I think it's like a banner or something like that, because paintings aren't in the game yet. You can like put a banner on the wall, so you can have like a nice cloth there, and there's also like curtains and stuff like that, and you can put them up, and then you press the Y button, and it just disables the physics, so it freezes in place. And it's a really cool it's an addition that I added in pretty late to the production, but it works pretty well. And because of that, you can do some really fun stuff with like, putting things upside down and putting things inside of other things, and even just the regular physics. Like, you can build like a big enormous structure and then just completely demolish it with like other objects in the world. I quite enjoy it myself. It's like a physics sandbox. So
nice.
Yeah. And then I want to add in the ability for like options as well. And that's the thing I want to tackle, because like options in every VR game right now, even if they don't use a traditional even if they don't use a laser pointer, which there are few and far between, but if they don't, they still end up using a laser pointer usually when it comes to settings and options. And I think I can maintain my little system I have, inventory system, for options as well. So like, I want to add in the ability for players to choose to go between 72, 90, or 120 hertz, right? Because those options are available in the Quest right now. Everything except for the main menu runs at 72 hertz, I think it is. I'm pretty sure that the main menu runs at 90. But it's also using some foveated rendering stuff. But I want to give the players the option to use, whatever, variation, with the understanding that, if you set it to 120 hertz, you might whip around a corner real quick in the city, and it might chug for a minute, I mean, it works pretty well, but, or maybe, if you select 120 hertz, we turn off the grass or something like that in the town, which also, I'm very proud of that grass. I don't think I've seen any other mobile VR game do that level of grass.
Pretty impressive.
I don't think it's available in any other title. Not trying to pat myself on the back too much here, but hey. I mean, yeah. But also, like, skin color would be a really cool thing. That would be an option, So like the player would have like a bunch of different hands they could choose from, just normal human skin color. I mean, hell, if someone wants to do blue, they could do that, or just like a skeleton hand or something like that. I don't know, just something for players to have options,
Yeah,
stuff like that. And then on from that, like, I think I could also maybe enable the player to actually choose. And this is totally a Peter Molyneux moment, because I don't know if this is possible at all, but it's something I want to do. Just a disclaimer here. I'm not promising this, but it's something I want to do. I would like for the player to be able to choose like a material, right? So like, all the walls in the houses right now are just like a plaster type of material, except for the basements, which are a kind of stone material or a brick material. I would like for the players to be able to like grab a material and put it on the wall, and it becomes that material, Like, it sounds like a really cool idea, at least to me it does. So, you could have your house, like, that's above ground. Like, all the basements have this brick material, but the second floors and like the first floors, they all have like this plaster material. You could take that same material from the basement and have like brick walls on your first floor as well, you know?
It'd be cool.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's funny, like, I don't know how many games Wookie and I have played online that we play the game not the way it's meant to be played. We just, like Valheim, for example, we build all kinds of things and then we're kind of done with the game.
yeah.
We did the same thing with Ark.
Oh,
yeah, it seems to be the way it is with a lot of games like that.
Ark, we had a good
relate.
time until the performance took a crap. Like you said, the instancing would really help maybe that game if they need to upgrade to Unreal 4.23. Because, oof.
Yeah. Hopefully I'm not kind of do a character break here. Hopefully I'm not like talking too much.
Oh, no.
Again, like I have, first podcast, and I've never, I don't know how much to really talk about certain topics, because I get clearly excited about a lot of different things.
No,
as long as you're excited, we're good, because that's
it's fun. Yeah,
I mean, if you guys want to move on to my future projects, or if you want to call it here, whatever you want to do,
we can talk about for 5-10 minutes if you want. And
yeah, sure. So even though the sales on Medieval Designer are not doing great, and I'm sure a lot of that is just my terrible ability to market, because I'm not good at that.
Yeah, I think if you find the right crowd, like it's gonna be hit a home run. It's just like you're saying, marketing.
Yeah, I mean, marketing, it's just so difficult. I mean, you can reply to people on Twitter and be like, I have this game, but like that feels so scummy to me. I don't know. Like, it seems like everyone does it, but it seems so scummy. Like, does anyone have a game idea for this? Well, what about my game? You could check out me because I'm great. It just seems so scummy to me. I don't know. But I mean, it seems like everyone else is doing it. So maybe I should just, swallow that pride and do it. And then like Reddit and stuff like that. Like, there's tons of communities there. Like, I never thought about it until now, but like, there's got to be some intersection of people that play like The Sims and like VR,
Yeah.
So, like, post that in there, and it might take off there. But even though the sales on that game are not doing great, and part of that could also be because it's not on App Lab yet. Once something gets App Lab, it gives it this whole other level of respectability. It seems in the community of like VR people with like the Quest.
That and just amount of views is where that's just letting other people see it easily. Like, side quest is awesome, but there's a lot of people. I'm not gonna turn on the dev account to use side quest, and I don't want to connect it to my PC. That just roadblocks.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people that just they don't want to do that. Like, side quest is great, and like even their advertising system is really good, because you're like reaching a particular market, but like it's still it's so segmented off, Like, there's plenty of people who don't want to hook it up to a computer and mess with stuff like that.
Yeah, I had no problems doing it, and then all of a sudden App Lab came out, and it's like, if I get it on App Lab, it's instantly installed on my headset while I'm at lunch at work.
Yeah, it's so much more. It's so much more convenient,
Yeah.
Like, my wife loves the Quest, but she's not gonna like hook up. She's not gonna hook it up to her computer. She just thinks it's it's a pain in the ass. She doesn't want to deal with it. It's like, it's easy. It's just going to take a few minutes. I don't want to do that. It's like, all right, fine, whatever. But yeah, I feel like once it gets on App Lab, it'll probably do a little bit better. And if I can find a way to advertise better, we'll go from there. But even if it doesn't, even if it doesn't make me back my money, which, by the way, like, I don't know how many developers actually give their numbers for this stuff, but like, that game, Medieval Designer, cost me around $80,000 to develop.
Wow.
Yeah. And it is a relatively simple game for what it is, and it cost me $80,000 around about to develop.
Yeah, I've never heard numbers. I've had devs say, like, I have to sell this many copies to break even.
Yeah.
And that alone is like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But yeah, that number scared, like, that would scare the crap out of me.
It's a huge investment. I mean, I have to sell. Yeah, I mean, you can do the math on that. My game costs $8. Yeah, something like that. I have to sell a bunch of copies.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not doing that well so far. And even the numbers on something like SideQuest, if you were to go on there and like look at their numbers, those numbers are definitely not accurate because I have not seen that many as it says I have. Anyway, so even if it doesn't do well, the game started out as just a tech demo for, I want people to be able to use VR menus without looking at laser pointers. And then furthermore, I wanted people to design things and play with objects the same way I love to do in game engines, but without the technical overhead of doing that. I succeeded on both of those fronts, I think.
I think looking at it that way, you nailed it.
Yeah. So, and furthermore, it enabled me to get a business partner for this next project who is actually funding the entire thing, which is exciting as all hell. So, not $80,000 out of my pocket, so.
Well, the work you've done with Medieval Designer, like, if that's what, I don't want to say like if that's what can be expected in the next game, but like you're saying, your optimization and everything and the menu system, like I'm excited. I don't even know what it is, so
I mean,
I hope that helps.
Yeah, I mean, the next game is we have again, I don't want to promise anything, but
right.
we plan to hopefully have a release for that one by probably the holiday season of this year.
Wow.
If we can. And I'm only saying we only have that kind of accelerated timeline because I've done so much work on optimization and I have such a uniquely optimized pipeline for assets in VR because of what I've done previously. I think we might actually be able to hit it. And if not, it'll be probably, July of next year. We'll see. And bringing on another person has also accelerated the development in ways that I didn't think were possible. Like, the project took, 13 months, something like that, for a Medieval Designer to get finished. If you really want to call it on, months, which, that project, I worked 10 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week for pretty much every single day.
Yeah,
it's rough days. But I working on this, and I did that at the beginning of the other project as well. But when I brought on someone else, I realized I could slow down a little bit. So maybe I won't fucking burn out in flames. Hopefully,
yeah.
Because those kind of hours are not sustainable.
Nope.
But I wanted to get something out for the quest as soon as possible, and I think that it succeeded in what it was supposed to do for me. But even having another person added on, like we are 22 weeks ahead of our development schedule right now, which is an insane number.
That's money in the bank.
22 weeks ahead of schedule. Oh yeah. Speaking of money in the bank, because of my contract with my business partner, every 4 weeks we're ahead, we get paid extra at the end of the project. So we are doing incredible right now. Obviously, I can't talk about contracts. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Doing incredible there. So yeah, in the next game, just for references, the original plan was a full-scale RPG, right? Because I don't know if anyone's aware of this, but there are none of those on the quest. None. There's what is there? Demio? That's a tabletop RPG. It's fine. That's fun. But it's not a full-on RPG.
Yeah, there's nothing with a story on the quest. Really.
Yeah, there's nothing like. There's nothing like. There's no Morrowind. There's no Oblivion. There's no Skyrim. There's no Witcher.
I think the Star Wars Galaxy game comes the closest for story, but that's still kind of short stories put together type of thing. So
yeah, and story is going to be pretty tough to even get across, but we're working on that as well. Our original budget didn't even call for voice actors, but now we're getting those as well. So we'll see how that turns out. Yeah, it's going to be a tight project, but.
Wookie does a sexy innkeeper voice if you need one.
I do?
Perhaps.
Can I tempt you, Marge?
Well, come on, man. This is your audition. Go ahead.
Yeah, swing and a miss.
I have no idea what PJ meant by an innkeeper voice.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, our plan is to do a whole full on scale RPG though. Like, and it's going to be scaled down, obviously. Like I can tell you a lot of the stuff's still under NDA, but I mean, I can say some of the stuff certainly. Yeah, it's my studio. What are they going to do to me? I mean,
contract.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to piss off my business partner, but I can say some of the stuff we're not doing. Like the original plan, I can tell you was like a 6 square kilometer island, right? And you'd be able to like explore, and it'd be like medieval set and do all this, dungeon delve and stuff like that on there. It'd be like 20 cities and stuff like that. But the scale was just far too large for what it was. We were gonna hire more people as well, but we ended up just not doing that. So then we scaled down even further to just like, a smaller island, and we've scaled down further and cut things here and there and here and there and here and there. And I think the end product, while I don't want to talk about it too much, is still going to be a fun experience, and it's going to be pretty replayable because it's gonna have some type of story, hopefully, depending on how things turn out, and actors and all that. But most importantly, it's going to have. I mean, what is a game with a good story without mechanics? And the things that I'm pretty certain that we've nailed so far is stuff like fighting with like magic, right? Like casting spells in the beta in the like pre-alpha version of the game right now works incredibly well.
Nice.
Like sword combat. Honestly, not that great so far. But we're working on it. So combat for like melee weapons is surprisingly difficult in VR to me.
Yeah.
Simply because of like how you would normally do like resetting an animation in like a or like dealing damage or anything in like a normal game that's like uses melee weapons is you wait for the animation to be done. And then you call an event, or you time it based on the animation and then call an event or something like that. But there's no animations because the player is the animation, So it's a lot more difficult of a thing to really deal with. But like the potion crafting system is something I'm really excited about.
Nice.
I don't think I've seen potion crafting in anything else yet, and what we're doing so far looks really, really promising. And that and weapon repair, stuff like that. Looking really good so far. The actual dungeon delving itself is looking really good so far, even though the actual dungeons themselves aren't done yet. So, I mean, the idea is, you should be able to walk through this town and, get a quest or whatever, go to a dungeon, fight stuff, kill stuff, get their stuff, their equipment or whatever, come back to the town, sell it, upgrade your own gear, upgrade your skills, skill-based RPGs for the win, man. And then and then go back out and do another dungeon. Because the core loop of every RPG, whether people know it or not, at least every, medieval style RPG, is run through dungeons, kill stuff, get their stuff, take it back to town, sell it so you can afford to get better stuff and make, kill bigger monsters. And that's the core of every basic RPG, is just run through dungeons and kill stuff. And we get so distracted with all these systems, right? Oh, you just got to have this branching dialogue system, and the characters need to be able to eat and sleep and you drink and be drunk and whatever. But the core of an RPG is really just run through dungeons, kill stuff, upgrade your equipment, run through dungeons, kill bigger stuff. And I think that's really what we're gonna nail as best as we can with this upcoming game. So.
Awesome. I'm excited. I'm just glad to see there's like-minded devs out there that know what's fun, know what works, and cut out all the bullshit.
Yeah, I mean hopefully it turns out well. I mean my my career's kind of riding on this, so we'll see.
We'll optimize it.
Hey, I mean optimization's a big thing, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully that's gonna be good.
Sounds good.
I can't wait. So then I'm gonna run around designing medieval houses.
Yeah, I mean, the game did what it was supposed to do, and it's limited, but I think it's gonna get better over time. especially with the house building thing. But yeah, it's definitely a limited market for it. I understand that. The original game was really supposed to be this whole thing where you had this town, you could decorate a few houses and you could talk to people and they would send you out to like teleport you to random dungeons. You could do quests for them and stuff like that. And then you'd like have money to buy stuff for your house to upgrade. But it was way too complex for what it was supposed to be. For one developer working on it, and I'd already spent at that point like $30,000 in development. So there's only so much you can do.
And just be a medieval interior decorator for other people in the town, and that gets you your money and your experience to do your own house.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm looking for some aubergine. What?
I did say we would do some giveaways as well. I don't know how you guys want to handle that. I'm thinking we'll give away like I don't know 10 keys to the game. However you guys want to handle that, I don't know.
Oh, we can. Giveaways are hard because of the goddamn bots on the internet.
Yeah.
But I think the best way, just if we want to read a quote off here while we're talking, and then we can do some giveaways on Twitter and stuff like that. That'll work. I just have people message me at like, what did we say about this type of thing, and at least that way they've listened to us talk about it. And
yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah,
but that's generous of you. That's really nice.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm not really sure how much of a point that has, seeing as there's a demo available. The demo, I don't know if you guys even know about it because I released it like a week after. The demo has like 100 items, and you can just decorate the little main menu area. Whereas the main game has like 2,000 items and all the houses and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's something, and maybe it'll get some people to look at it, and maybe tell their friends. I don't know. Right. Again, I'm not good at marketing, so hell, if it works, cool. If not, I didn't lose money. Why not?
Sounds good.
I've already lost $80,000. If you listen closely, you can hear off in the distance the sound of me crying in the shower.
Yeah. I just thought that was a weird echo.
Yeah, something like that, No.
Tears and rain.
Well, it was great talking to you. I'm again, we just like to talk to devs and anyone working on anything in VR and just hear the passion and the excitement, because
yeah, I mean,
we're longtime gamers, and the game industry's ups and downs, and like currently it's like a cookie cutter world, and it's like not a lot of creativity going on.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a big thing. I mean, there's a lot of things. If we weren't like limited by time, and I wouldn't bore the absolute hell out of you guys, there's so much shit I could go into like great detail about. Like, yeah. I hate the current obsession with like 4K textures and stuff right now, but that's a whole other thing. Like, there's a term I use called reckless data usage. That's a problem in the industry right now that no one is addressing.
No.
I did a whole like YouTube video on it, like talking about things in the game and stuff. But yeah, there's so much stuff I'm passionate about when it comes to game dev. I could talk about this shit for hours.
Yeah. Well, if you ever need to vent, you know where to reach us. We've had a lot of developers are like, you're the first person I've talked to in like 3 months. So.
And
yeah, something like that.
I tinker with game dev too, and I need to get back into it. So if you ever just need to dump, like, I'm always up for learning what other people just like that lighting guy you mentioned. I'm like, who is that? Because I'm sure I'll need some tips whenever I get back.
Oliver, he is incredible. Like, like seriously, like go back and like look at the original demo of look at the original trailer of the game. Especially look at the player's hands in particular. Look at the player's hands. Like, look at some of the items in the world, and then go back and just load up the main menu and look at the difference. There's a crazy level of difference in the lighting.
I didn't see. I watched the demo or the video when you released it, but when I fired up the game, I didn't notice the difference. But I did notice like, the hand looks really nice. Like, I wasn't really looking for a difference, but I did notice like, I'm like, the hands look really good.
I think that if you're not looking for the differences, you won't really notice them. But once they're there, they make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And or like at the end of the video where like like I pick up the skull and put it back down. Like the lighting just like on the skull itself, or like how you can actually see detail where the wood connects with other pieces of wood on the shelf itself. It's all material tricks too. There's no actual lighting. I think I'm good at optimization, man. I think I'm a master of optimization. Give myself that. But Oliver is on a whole nother level, man.
That's when you put a lot of those good tricks into it. Like a lot of people won't be able to put their finger on why something looks better than another thing, but it's all those things. Like in games where I don't remember anything off the top of my head, but if it doesn't have like shadows on the ground, sometimes it doesn't look like it's grounded. Everything looks like it's floating. Most people don't really realize that, but it's like, this looks weird. And, you up the shadows or do some lighting tricks, and it's like, oh, it's fine. Because with lighting and textures, you can do a hell of a lot with a low poly game. Like,
you can do so much.
If Final Fantasy, whatever it was, 13 on, I don't know, PS2 or one of those things. And it was like, how the hell does this game look so good? Better than any PS2 games, because, they finally learned the hardware or whatever. But it's like, they did some really good tricks. That game looks fantastic for...
Yeah, and
what it was.
There's so much of that we have to learn from when it comes to like past developers. Like everything now. Like if I'm making a PC game, it's going to be like almost 100% dynamically lit.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't do that on mobile hardware.
Yep.
The Snapdragon XR2 is a really cool chip. It's great for what it is. At least in the Quest 2. But it can't do stuff like that, There's some really cool talks about how like Robo Recall, for instance, like they did a whole talk on how they optimized Robo Recall from being this this game with like 1,000 draw calls down to like 100 and something, and that's pretty impressive. So
yeah, it's a good demo of going from PCVR to Quest anyway.
They did great on that stuff. A lot of their tricks I use myself. Nice. That and like Thrill of the Fight, they did some interesting stuff. No, it wasn't Thrill of the Fight. It was the Creed game, one of those boxing games. They had this whole article about how they actually achieved faked lighting, and it was actually pretty ingenious. They use it looks like the lighting is like real time, or like dynamic, but they're actually just using a decal on the ground to actually make it look like that. It's pretty ingenious. It's such a simple, stupid little trick, but it works so well.
It's crazy.
And decals like a squished version of the model, or
they just use like a decal of like what a shadow would look like with the light interacting around it. It's like pre-baked. It's really, really good.
Read that, because I remember somebody talking, I think it was like Mario Sunshine, somebody noticed that it's like just the same like way back in GameCube days, but it was just the same exact model of Mario, exactly what you were doing with the animations, but they turned the height to like 1 on everything and just painted it black, so it's like a perfect copy of Mario doing your thing, and it looks like a shadow. I don't know if anybody playing the game ever noticed. Just some game devs were like, hey, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I mean, even years ago, that's a pretty good idea, actually.
Just squeezing stuff out where you can just to make it. I mean, you don't have to have a sun pointing right down to everything to make a shadow. There's plenty of other tricks. You just has to look like a shadow at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, hopefully, like as small of a detail as it is, I really want to hopefully get the item rotating in the next build. So like right now when you're in like looking at your menu, everything is just stationary, and it's all supposed to be facing the player, but some of the items have weird pivots and stuff, so they don't exactly. But like if everything was rotating, it would give you an even better view of the item before you pick it up, And I think that I can actually achieve that now by using some very interesting material tricks that someone else had showed me. So we'll see about that.
Nice.
Wish that was in real life, because I'd just like a big circular menu to pop up with like a sandwich. And I just grab the sandwich, and then the menu dissipates, and then
hey man, I got some big plans for AR in the future.
Oh boy, sweet.
Hey, that's something I can mention on real quick too. Like, did you guys ever get a chance to experience the augmented reality bug on the Quest 2 before it was patched out?
No.
Okay, so there was a bug in, I think it was version, it's 27 because we're on 28 now, with 29 rolling out soon.
Yeah.
But 27, there was a bug where you could turn off the Guardian and it would leave you in a state of like half pass through.
Oh,
So you could see the real world around you in your game world.
crazy.
Yeah, so like you could play like Beat Saber, which, I love me some Beat Saber, man, it's the best. I I don't know how anyone can't like Beat Saber, but I saw somebody the other day was like, Beat Saber is the worst game ever. I don't know how anybody likes it. What? It's amazing. Anyway, so yeah, like you could play Beat Saber and like still see your living room.
That's pretty neat.
And like something like that has no real utility other than, not kicking your dog across the fucking room or something.
Or saw a video. Some guy playing a boxing game in VR, and the wife tries to grab the little 3-year-old or something, and she can't get to him in time, and the dude just does an uppercut right into the kid's face.
Oh my god, it's horrible!
Oh my god,
it's horrible. So funny, but so bad. Yeah, or like or even just like the small things you see. Like everyone has seen the videos of like people doing like Richie's Plank experience, and them like jumping into a TV or something like that.
Yeah.
Or just like they're playing Gorn and they just like they put their fist through the wall. Something like that. But like I asked Boz on his AMA recently. I think it's pretty cool. I got a question answered in AMA. It's pretty cool myself. I asked, when are we going to get access to pass through as developers? Like, I want to be able to turn on the pass through cameras and let the player use some kind of, rudimentary augmented reality. Because like I did an experiment when that bug was still active, okay? And I've never explained this to anyone publicly. This is the first time I'm talking about this. So I turned on the pass-through mode, right? And then I opened up my game because I was thinking about, wait a minute, my entire game's about decorating things. This is perfect. Yeah.
I know
like you might see where this is going. In my living room, and I put down a bench because that's the closest thing we have to like couches in my game. And I leveled it perfectly to where it was like perfect with the height with the couch, and I disabled the physics obviously. And then I put there's like pillows in my game. I put a pillow right where the real pillow in our couch was, and I put a table down right where our actual table was, right? And then I sat down on my fake bench on my real couch, and then I touched my fake pillow that was also my real pillow.
Wait, I thought you said you disabled physics on your couch. Didn't you go through it in real life too?
If only.
How much did that blow your mind then?
It was, dude, it's fucking mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I don't think people, like my timeline for AR has always been it's always been pretty much the same since I first experienced VR a few years ago, which is I think that by 2025, AR headsets are going to be like things that are like almost glasses essentially are going to be readily available in they're going to be in movies and TV and stuff like that, and the rich and powerful will be able to have them. And then by 2028, they will be anyone that can afford a modern day flagship phone that's like $1,000 will be able to have a pair of smart glasses. And then by 2030, they will be as ubiquitous and as readily available as any phone is today. Like, that's my timeline. And some people think I'm insane for that timeline. Like, people on Twitter, I've had so many people be like, that's insane. We're 50 years away from AR. Yeah, okay. You haven't seen the things I've seen, apparently. But like, I tried, I just did that tiny little experiment with, placing fake objects in the real world. But
that's the first step to actually living in VR.
It is. It was a crazy, mind-blowing experience. So then I did more. I changed the color of my curtains. I put a rug down on the floor. I put a coffee table in the middle of the floor. Where our real coffee table was. When
you're explaining it, it doesn't sound very groundbreaking, but like listeners have to realize, like when you're doing it in VR, simple things are groundbreaking. You should remember that. Like, one of our stories when we first played Elven Assassin, I leaned over to dodge an arrow, and I thought there was a barrel there, like an like a Nintendo 64 looking rendered barrel. There's no barrel in the place I was playing, and I just fell on my ass. And half my brain was like, "What the hell? There was something there." The other half was like, "Did you expect that to work?"
Yeah,
that's how.
So I mean,
like it's crazy.
It's no secret that like the next generation of standalone headsets, like whatever the Quest, like they talk about, the Quest Pro or the Quest 3, whatever, it's not going to come out for another. I truly think that the lifespan of VR headsets in the future is going to be about 18 months. It's going to be about the same as a reasonable smartphone purchase.
Yeah.
Which is going to piss off a lot of people. But just like people who bought the Quest 1 and then the Quest 2 came out a few months later. Like I'm sorry, but you're going to have to learn to live with it. It's like the same way, like I buy a new phone like every 9 months, I swear. Like it's just I want the new hardware, So the next generation of these devices are going to have like full resolution pass-through cameras, and they're going to be good quality, and they're going to, they're not going to have weird lens distortion. So like my ability to sit on an object that doesn't exist inside of my real world living room, where I could see my TV on the wall, but yet I could see this, this medieval style bench too. Mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing. So ask Boz when we're getting access to that, and his answer was hopefully sometime this year. And I am almost 100% certain that when they enable that, I will be the first person in the world to offer an experience where you could decorate your house in augmented reality.
Get ready for it then, yeah. Because I played with AR and Unity, and it's like, that's fun and easy to do. Everyone's going to jump on it.
It's insane. And the way my game is built, I have to do nothing other than just enable AR.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's going to be insane. I'm looking forward, like, even if no one else plays it, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of that myself.
You never make another game, you just live in it.
Yeah. Like, even more so with, like, the ability to put up walls soon, like, because that feature is going to be going live in, like, less than a month, probably. Like, I can put up where my real walls are in my real house, and just live in an AR version of my house.
Even just for like with my game room, knowing where the walls are, would be nice.
Yeah,
So
it's such a mind blowing future that's going to exist. Like when these things are small enough where we can wear them all the time. Like I think the actual the television market, or for actual physical TVs, is going to be gone by like 2045.
Yeah.
Or maybe even 2040, because why the hell would I pay Samsung for, a 55-inch TV or whatever, when I could just mount one on my wall using augmented reality? And as long as I'm wearing the glasses, it's on the wall. And if my wife has, the same glasses or whatever in the same, room, she'd be able to see it too, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the future of that kind of stuff is insane, but I feel like I'm I'm going into a whole nother thing, and it might be time to, wrap this up. Yep. You guys probably don't have all kinds of time. I'm sorry. I go off on tangents about technology, man. I love it.
No, it's great to hear. It's also interesting as hell. So like, I hope you are the first one to launch that when it happens.
Hey, maybe I can be back on to talk about some AR stuff when that happens.
I was gonna do a Viking thing because I love Viking stuff. I was gonna redo my office. Maybe I just need to boot up your game when you get the wall builder, rebuild my office, and then like start decorating. You're like, okay, yeah, I could get one of those.
Yeah, put some swords on the wall. A shield. I don't know, a deer head, something.
Moose head. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's been awesome hanging out and talking to you. Yeah, it's been mind blowing, eye opening.
Thanks.
And good. If you can talk more later, like your NDA gets lifted about the new game, and you want to spill some stuff, come on back.
Yeah, I think that once we get our vertical slice done, we might actually start showing off some stuff of it. You guys know what a vertical slice is? I'm guessing.
Yep.
Okay. You say nope or yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. So yeah, once we get like the vertical slice done, I think we're going to show it off a little bit here and there. And it'll be like an early version of like, getting a quest and going through a dungeon. And I think around that time I might be able to do that, because it'll all kind of be out there at that point. We might even do like a Kickstarter or something. I'm not sure. It really depends on how the project is still so early in its stages, that we have a lot of conceptual stuff that we know we want to do, but everything changes over time.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, Medieval Designer started as a dungeon game as well, so who knows? This might turn into a jogging through the forest game, which I may or may not also be working on in my spare time. Maybe.
You're spending a lot of plates, man.
I work unhealthy hours, and I'll probably be dead by the time I'm 50. But I'm gonna make a lot of shit while I'm here.
There you go. That's an awesome tombstone marker.
He died early, but he made a lot of shit.
I talked to one consultant that, not to go into work stuff at all, but he did say, like, he was the guy that pulled crazy hours. I'd heard nothing but good things about him. And I just talked to him once, and he was like, you ever heard that one about the old lady that, like, was afraid to buy a bunch of bananas because she thought she wouldn't be around long enough to eat them all? And I was like, no. He's like, now you have. And he wasn't kidding. And I was like, he basically worked himself into I don't know if he's still around, but an early grave. I was like, don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rough thing, man. Like, not to get into a whole other thing, but like, I have some deep existential dread. Like, I am 26 and I feel like I'm like in my 40s.
Yeah. Wow.
Just like the insane work hours, and the fact that I don't sleep well at night because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna die before I finish my next project. It's not good. This episode brought to you by Better Health or something, right?
Yeah, really. I think my girlfriend just read that, like, if you lose one bit of, like, even one night of restful sleep, it contributes to Alzheimer's. So you should get some sleep.
It's not easy, man. But yeah. Yeah, I always have a lot of projects in the works. Keeps my mind busy, keeps me busy, gives me something to do.
It's hard not to do it. Last time I took a huge jump into, like, playing with the Unity game engine stuff, I was like awake for 18 hours straight. Didn't sleep till Sunday night because it's fun once you get lost into it.
Oh, it's great. Like once you, and it's also the problem of like context switching too. Like you feel like you got to solve a problem, and if you don't solve it right then and there, it's gonna be you're not gonna solve it, or it's gonna take you longer to pick it back up. But a lot of times that's just not the case, and that's just the creativity stupid setting in, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, thanks again. That was awesome.
All right, cool. I guess I'll probably just message you guys on Twitter with like a bunch of keys, and you guys can divvy them out how you see fit.
Can do that.
And just maybe tag me in the releases or something, and I don't know.
Yep.
Figure it out. I'll let you guys know when it's on App Lab and stuff too. So
sweet.
Yeah, awesome.
I'll probably give you guys some keys for App Lab as well when it's available.
Nice.
Yeah, seeing as you guys are the first podcast to have me on. That's a special thing. I think maybe I don't know.
I hope so. I mean,
I don't know. Maybe one day I'll be on. I don't know who's a big podcaster. H3 or Joe Rogan or Bill Burr. I don't know any podcasters.
If you can go to the Bill Burr podcast, let me know because I want to listen.
Dude, Bill Burr's awesome. He's great.
All right.
All right, then.
Have a good one, man. Thanks again.
All right, guys. Until next time.
See ya.
Peace.
Hello, everyone. That was Robert Aldridge from Big Top Game Studio, working on Medieval Designer, or finished up Medieval Designer and working on a new game.
Secret project.
You heard it here first. But if you're listening to this and you want to try out Medieval Designer, message us, and if we have a free key, we will get you one. But for this episode, I'm PJ.
I'm Wookie.
And this was our VR verdict.